Greetings everyone, and in this episode I'm going to pick up where I left off in the last one regarding King's mid-range options. Just a little bit of a reminder, I'm trying to explore the options that he has which have range to kind of like threaten his opponent and start enacting a mix-up when he's from this kind of like mid-range-ish kind of like distance. Forgetting point blank for now, I'm going to explore that in the next one. In the previous episode, I looked at Jaguar Step and I exposed the fact that it has kind of like a universal answer, and the options it gives you are overall not the best. In this one, I'm going to see what other kind of like strategies I can formulate using King's move list from this range. And like I said, in the next one, I'm going to start looking at my point blank options. So let's get into it. So what other options do I have? Well, generally characters have crouch dashes, which, because like I said, Jaguar Step crushes lows, people are not going to be chugging out lows from this range all that much. Mainly they're going to be chugging out, well, amongst other things, quick highs to try and interrupt you and get a counter hit maybe. Do I have an option that crushes highs as our approach? Well, yes, I do have a crouch dash. Wave dashing aside, crouch dash looks much better for King. First of all, it does cover a lot of ground because from 1, 2, 3, almost 3, a full crouch dash into throw connects. So that's good. But, and again the throws look like 1+2s. Look like this. Notice how he kind of like makes a slight pause before he throws. See? There's a slight pause there. While this does eat away at the speed and gives your opponent more time to kind of like react, this allows you to comfortably mask in a manual 1+2, unlike we found with Jaguar Step. So if I record the options here, just for the sake of it, this is the 2 break. This is the 1 break. And I'm going to do Executioner Drop. I don't really have the execution for the Muscle Buster. And if I show these here, you see the slight pause? It's indistinguishable. You can mask this in comfortably. So this is a 3-way mix-up. On top of that, off of these two, this is a 3-way mix-up right off the bat, and within these 2 trees, it's also a 3-way mix-up. You have the ability to go for a 1+2, 1, or a 2 break. So this is a much better, much more relevant throw mix-up. And by the way, just to get this out of the gate, these manual options, which I went over when I discussed King's move list. This reverse arm slam is completely stupid because this backdrop is the only option that you can have after this, the only one, and it's breakable with a 1. So this entire tree is made redundant because this gatekeeper here, you can break it all the time with a 1. And because of this, where's the other? This sucks because, well, I went over this when I discussed King's move list. I'm not going to repeat it. So these 2 options, which are kind of like not the crouch dash options, but rather this down forward throw, they are much more stupid than the crouch dash actual mix-ups. Okay, so I have a 3-way mix-up on the throw, but again, my opponent can duck all these. Can I decentivize my opponent from ducking? Well, yes, I do. Not only do I have a manual while standing 4, which is quick and safe and chunky and 20 damage, I also have the knee, which is a little bit more damage, albeit a little bit slower, but it's a counter hit launcher. And I also have this Black Bomb, I believe it's called. It's a little bit slower, still safe, and it's also a counter hit launcher. So this is very good. But so far, all these options are steppable, I presume. Can I stop my opponent from stepping? Well, yes. You do crouch dash into manual while standing 2, which on its own is still safe. It's -9, and only after the second one is it punishable at -10, and you can hit confirm this if you're a Jedi. Well, this is a very, very good situation finally. I can crush highs as I'm approaching, put my opponent in a three-way mix-up on the throw, regardless of what they choose. They're always in a three-way mix-up. I have counter-hit launchers, and I have a quick mid, and I have a homing mid, all of which are safe. Well, now we're talking. There is a Korean king player by the name of MBC Tekken who made a name for himself during the early days of Tekken 7 FR. He traveled with Korean players to fight Japanese. There's tournament footage from him, but only from 2 years ago. He is very crouch dash heavy with king. And he always uses this, he always uses the while standing 4, he always uses this, and he uses actually the executioner drop, not the muscle buster. And he did quite well for himself during the early days of Tekken 7 FR. Problem is, I don't really find any tournament footage of him after that. After 2017, I believe, he no longer competed in tournaments. He's mainly a streamer in Korea now. He's Tekken God Prime in Korea. There's footage of him fighting me, I believe, Kudans and other players. He's a fantastic king player, and he's very crouch dash heavy with king. Problem is, like I said, he doesn't compete nowadays anymore, so it's really difficult to assess how viable that strategy is. And generally, I don't think crouch dash is all that king is about. Because, before I reinstate it again, if I remove the artificial kind of like rules that I put in, your opponent is not going to blindly allow you to crouch dash in their face all the time. Maybe against Mishimas who are extremely electric happy, you can get away with it. But like landing a crouch dash with king, all these options, even though they're good, like the throws, because of that like slight delay, they're not as effective really as like a mix-up between an electric, a health sweep, and a forward 3 or whatever it is that Mishimas do. This is much slower. And you need other tools to do the exact same that you did with Jaguar Step. You have to condition your opponent, at least with Jaguar Step, you have to cover 2 grounds. You have to stop your opponent moving and stop them from fighting back. Well, you don't really have to cover movement all that much. It would be nice to stop your opponent from sidestepping and keep the mix-up like in between 2 options, mid or throw. But at least you have to stop your opponent from keep swinging back because, well, yes, you can crush highs, but people also go for quick mids from this range. And they're not going to allow you to like blindly crouch dash in their face. And therefore, I believe you really have to explore other options. So I don't really like my options all that much from this range. I would like to, well, finally break the rules that I set and approach. I want to be here. But again, your opponent is not going to allow you to like blindly run in. You need to approach in a certain way, as you do with all characters, preferably with attacks, because they're not going to allow you to kind of like slowly approach, because while you're doing this you can't block. And of course you can't approach while blocking. The next best thing that most characters do is approach while attacking. So you're forcing your opponent to block themselves in order to stop them from sticking attacks out. Well, and I'm not going to like elaborate any further. The move that sticks out the most in this situation as an approach tool is of course forward 1. This is a fantastic mid. It is homing. It is mid. It is a counter hit launcher. On hit, it leads to huge plus frames, gives ballerina stun, it wall splats, it does everything. Because of the fact that it's homing and mid, your opponent has no option other than maybe backdash away from it and make it whiff. And this is up to you to not allow that to happen, to play good Tekken and be good at spacing and be good at placing it. Or they can interrupt you out of it. And that is entirely possible because I believe forward 1 on king is 23 frames. If I can double check that quickly on the list here, even though finding stuff on it is not really easy. Forward 1 is 22 to 23 frames. And it's safe, of course, as -5. Now, because of the fact that it's slow, yes, you have to place it correctly, you have to be savvy with it, you can't just blindly run in and do it because your opponent is going to interrupt you and counter hit you out of it. But that's the reality of Tekken. This is the way it is for almost all characters. And the main thing that highlights itself when it comes to forward 1 is, like I said, it's mid-homing, so it covers all your opponent's options apart from making it completely whiff or interrupting you, which you have to do yourself manually as king. And it's -5 on block. Now, short of getting it to hit, which would be fantastic, counter hit would be awesome because it's a juggle. But getting it to hit, you're at significant plus frames because I believe it is +14 to +15, I believe, guard frames. So, once you condition your opponent, if you're very good with this move and good at placing it, it can work around the fact that it's 23 frames and get really good with landing it and the range of it, your opponent will start blocking it. Once they do, well, it's fantastic. You close the range, you're in your opponent's face, but you're at -5. Your opponent has the initiative. They can interrupt you. They can maybe backdash away from you. They can big jab. They have 5 more frames on you. -5 means that your jab will trade with a hop kick. So I want to approach but not be at minus. I want to start my offense from point blank, which I'm going to explore in the next episode apparently, because I think this has dragged on long enough. I want to start my offense but not at negative. Do I really have to pay the price of -5 to be in my opponent's face? Well, no, you don't. This is where those other lows that I skimmed over earlier start playing a part. Because once you condition your opponent to block this and thus they're going to stay standing, you approach with this and be a +1, or this and be a +2, maybe capital punishment be a +2, maybe running 3 be at +1, and of course all these options are possible because your opponent is conditioned to not sidestep and not like I said, not crouch. All of these are possible because you condition them with this. You shut down their movement, you shut down their options, and they're forced to block this. And they lock the option of blocking it. You're going to be at -5. Yes, you're in their face, but they have the initiative on you. Once you condition them with this, you start going in with this, that capital punishment to be a +2, running 3 to be a +1, and this is, I believe, the real intent of the move, Shining Wizard. Also, you land at their feet, and they're completely point blank from you. Now, I know that a good opponent is going to see this coming from a mile away and break it because you did it from running. Of course, you always have other options. You can do it from, if I could show it here. You could do it from crouch dash. You could run into a giant swing. You can mask it. But the main intent of it, if you check the way it is listed on the command list, if you check how, I don't believe he's going to do it, but if you check it on the command list as king, they show you the dummy doing it from kind of like this range. So this is another approach tool. Like theoretically in design, of course, we can do it point blank. You can do Shining Wizard from here, instant Shining Wizard. I'm going to explore this in the next one when I discuss point blank. But the main design behind it is an approach tool. From this range, you mix up forward 1 with the lows that give you plus frames, with this, with the running 3, and on top of that, you have your Shining Wizard. All of these are approach tools. These are get-in tools. All of these you use to try to close this gap and be at your opponent's face. That is why it is no surprise to me that King's Shining Wizard, or Shining White as it's called, leaves you point blank from your opponent. Not to give you Oki. The issue here is not Oki. The issue here is because King's mentality from this range is, I don't want to be here. I can't launch my opponent. I can't enact meaningful offense from this range. If I want to be offensive as king, I want to be here. Point blank. I'm going to explore his options in the next one. I'm going to show that they're much better than what I showed in this one. But how do I approach? Again, it all ties up in my mind to forward 1. This is the mid that ties everything together without being overpowered, because it launches only on counter hit. If it launched on normal hit, it would be completely broken. and would actually end up hurting king in a way because it would remove one of his approach options. And it's slow, it's 23, so your opponent can interrupt you out of it, so you really have to play good Tekken in order to be able to use it. And once your opponent says, okay, I don't want to deal with that, I've gotten tired of getting counter hit out of something and launched, I got caught like trying to sidestep and I got clipped by this, I'm going to block it. Well, once you condition them to do that, then you open up all the way to the other tools that you have. And that concludes my mentality and my kind of like breakdown on King's game plan from this range. You do have Jaguar Step, it sucks sadly. You do have Crouch Dash, which doesn't suck, but the best option you have is close the gap, and you mainly do that with, like I said, forward 1 mixed in with the other plus on block options. One final thought before I conclude this episode. Plus frames on approach are a good idea as king, of course. Doing this to be a plus, doing, like I said, this, doing this, the lows that give you plus frames, in order to avoid paying the price of -5 to be at point blank is fantastic. Because then you start your offense from plus. That is good. However, I'm going to have a different take on this when I'm already in my opponent's face. Say we start here and I start with chest bump. This is going to be subjective, but I'm going to make the case for it. I say don't do that. Chest bump is not really as useful once you're already in your opponent's face. The good example I have for this is Jaguar Step 4. Not only is it a high and it's duckable, so it's not really going to mix up your throws all that much, because you need mid versus throw to make it a good mix-up. It's plus on block. I'm not sure how much, I don't care. But the thing is, you got this blocked and you're plus. What are you going to do with those plus frames as king? Well, I'm going to mix throw with mid. Well, you were at the end of your Jaguar Step. Why didn't you mix your throw with mid already? Your opponent didn't sidestep you. Your opponent didn't do anything. Why didn't you do this or that? Why did you conclude your Jaguar Step successfully, gotten through the difficult part of getting your opponent to stand idly while you Jaguar Step, and then at the end of it you chug out a plus on block high in order to get a mid versus throw mix-up? You already had mid versus throw. You blew it. You let it slide. You start off with a plus. What are you going to do with a plus? So this is kind of like the mentality I'm going to have from up close. But while approaching, yes, definitely if you can approach at plus frames, then that's fantastic. Because from far away here, you don't really have access to mid versus throw, unless you do a crouch dash, and like I said, that requires conditioning. So on approach, plus frames are good. Once you're point blank, or once you're already in a mix-up, I don't believe you should be seeking plus frames. So that's going to be it for this episode. I'm pretty sure it kind of like dragged on more than I wanted to, but I believe I made good points. In the next episode, I'm going to talk about point blank and how King's options are complemented from there. But I believe I made my theory clear that King's mentality from this range is not really to be a threat. He can't really be an offensive threat from this range. His mentality from here is, how do I approach? How do I become here and not there? And like I said, in my mind, the key move here is forward 1, and everything else builds around it. Once you condition your opponent with this, you can open up your other options. Maybe even your crouch dashes and Jaguar Steps, because it's going to shut down all your opponent's movement. Of course, I know, again, I repeat this, there are other options available, but in theory, this is generally the real options that you have available to you as king when you're from this range, kind of like 2 backdashes away and further on. And like I said, in the next episode, I'm going to start looking over the point blank options. So, until then, take care and goodbye.